Gentlemen, Angelinos, and interested parties, welcome to the regular meeting of Los Angeles City Council's Planning and Land Use Management Committee. My name is Marquis Harris Dawson. I serve as the chair of this committee. I'm joined by our vice chair, Mr. Bob Blumenfeld, San Fernando Valley, also joined by council members Curran Price and John Lee. 4 of 5 members present. We will begin our business with folks who have signed up for multiple items in general public comment. We have no such members, so we'll close general public comment now. And we'll begin our meeting with item number 1. Mr. Mejia, if you could read that into the record, and then we'll hear from Mr. Bertoni.
Item 1, council members, a report from the Director of Planning.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Chair Harris Dawson, members of the committee. Vince Bertoni, Director of Planning. Just for today's Director's report, to let the committee know, we came out, I think last week, with our new quarterly report in terms of the activities of the Planning Department. It's in essence, a new, revised, and expanded format, and it's hopefully easier for people to see and use. A few things that we did on this one is we brought all of our reports or newsletters that we do on a quarterly basis and under one heading, and we folded in our housing report. But what we also did is we have on our website a much more detailed information about housing. So our quarterly report on housing has gone into our website, and it's much easier to get in and take a look at the information and use information to pull more data out of it. You can kind of rank items in there and things like that, so you can actually pull up information such as number of housing units by the community plan area and so forth. So it's a lot more interactive than it has been in the past. But just a few more. So that's we have a new housing progress dashboard. I encourage everyone to go in and take a look at that. You can either find it on our website, or you can either go to the quarterly report and link to it there. Just a few highlights in terms of from the quarterly housing report is that the number of units actually this last quarter through a density bonus program actually went up fairly dramatically. It nearly tripled from 712 units to over 2,000. And interesting about, there's 20 new density bonus projects filed. 4 of them were not eligible for TOC, but the rest were. So in terms of the TOC, we had a drop in our TOC over the last quarter. So we actually saw density bonus go up and TOC go down just for that one quarter. But it's still a really strong program. The TOC is responsible for over 40% of our housing units. And in terms of last quarter, more than half of all the affordable units that were proposed through TOC were through our extremely low income category, and that's the one that's 30% of the area median income. In terms of ADUs, we saw a 7% increase in new applications on the quarter for accessory dwelling units. We also listed so that's kind of a summary of some of the high level parts of our report. And I also have Ashley Atkinson here from our performance management unit in case you have any more detailed questions. We also have recently released the zoning for our downtown LA 2040 community plan. And that's the area that covers the entire downtown area, which is now called Central City and Central City North. And it really brings into the details in terms of what the plan will involve in terms of implementation. It's really projected, even though it's just 1% of our land area, to have more than 20% of our future population growth. And so it's an area that we're looking at significant growth in the future. A couple of the things that have been getting a lot of attention in that particular area, understanding that downtown LA is a place where you have lots of transportation options, the most in the city. We're recommending as part of that there's no minimum parking requirements. It doesn't mean that developers can't put in parking. It's just that we as the city won't require it as part of our zoning, understanding that we have. In fact, we just recently put in a bike lane here in Main Street that most of you all probably already seen, with opportunities to bicycle, to walk, to bike, to use scooters, localized buses, as well as light rail and heavy rail in there, that we feel that that's probably not needed. So that's part of that's in the new plan. We've already hosted open houses for that, so we're going to be looking forward to early next year releasing the draft EIR for that and bringing it through our process to do through a public hearing through this planning commission, then to this committee and the full council. I also have with me today Craig Wepper from our Community Planning Bureau to discuss that if you have any questions. And that concludes my report, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much. Questions or comments, members? Seeing none, we'll receive and continue this item for 7 days and revisit it next week. Mr. Mejia, there have been requests to continue items number 2, 3, and 15. If you could read those into the record.
Yes, Councilman. Item 2 is a report from the Planning Department. It includes appeals relative to a categorical exemption for a 120 residential unit project located in CD5. And the request is to continue that item to January 21st, 2020.
All right, without objection, that'll be the order.
The next item for continuance, Councilman, is item 3. The request is to continue it to the December 10th meeting. It's a report from the Planning Department, relates to a vesting zone change to construct 215 homes located in Council District 7. And finally, the third item for continuance is item 15, which is a report from the City Planning Commission. It relates to a transfer of floor area rights located in CD 14, and it is for a 60-unit mixed-use project. The request is to continue to December the 10th.
All right, well, without objection, that'll be the order on both of those. That takes us to a longer list of items that the chair is recommending that we take on consent. It's items number 5 through 13 or 5 through 14.
Councilman, for item 15, an addendum, a correction, is to continue this item to January 14, 2020.
All right. So we'll accept that correction
Okay.
without objection. And those, we have items number 5 through 14. I'm recommending that we take those items on consent. It's been seconded by Mr. Blumenfeld. Without objection, that'll be the order. That'll bring us to item number 4.
Councilman, item 4 is a communication from the mayor. It's relative to the appointment of Mr. Elvin Moon to the Board of Building and Safety Commissioners.
All right. Is Mr. Moon in the house? No moon, only sunshine and stars in the city of Los Angeles. All right. Notwithstanding said absence of our subject, I'll recommend that we forward this recommendation to the full council. Without objection, that'll be the order. That takes us to item number 16.
Item 16, Councilman, this is a report from the City Planning Commission. It includes a city attorney prepare ordinance, which would make amendments to the Warner Center 2035 specific plan and clarify how mobility fees and in lieu credits are quantified and calculated.
All right.
Good afternoon, Craig Webber, City Planning staff. I think we just heard a fairly adequate summary of the ordinance that is before this committee. The committee initially heard the ordinance a matter of weeks ago, so this is an opportunity to formally adopt the city attorney's ordinance. I would point out it came to our attention very late in the process that the final ordinance prepared by the city attorney was missing a single set of footnotes that are helpful in the implementation of the larger ordinance. We've identified that deficiency, have since offered up a corrected and signed ordinance that the committee could choose to act on if it so chooses.
Thank you so much. There's no public comment on this item. Mr. Blumenfield.
I've talked about this item before. I'm thrilled to move forward with it. With the footnote as described, I think we got to make sure we include that in the... So I would move the measure as amended with the footnote.
Excellent. Seconded by the chair. Hearing no objection, that'll move forward. Thank you all so much. That takes us to item number 17.
Item 17, Councilman, this is a report from the Cultural Heritage Commission relative to the inclusion of the Kelly Music Building in the list of historic cultural monuments.
The consistent Mr. Bernstein in the house.
Good afternoon. Ken Bernstein with Department of City Planning, Office of Historic Resources. The Cultural Heritage Commission recommendation is that the Kelly Music Building meets two of the Cultural Heritage Ordinance criteria. First, for its significant contributions to the economic and social history of the community, for its association with the early development of Westwood Village by the Jantz Corporation, and secondly, for its architecture as an excellent example of Mediterranean revival architectural style and as an early work of master architect Paul Revere Williams.
Thank you so much. We have three public comment speakers on this item. Darren Lariano, Teresa Austin, Adrian Scott Fine. You all can come up in any order and speak for 1 minute.
Good afternoon. I might need an additional minute. Thank you. I'm representing the ownership for the project. My name is Darren Loriano, Southern California Land Use. We contacted Azine Kamelik from Council District 5 regarding the inclusion of a finding for statements of support for future modernization improvements in this approval record. Although many of us are experts in historic work and adaptive reuses, prospective tenants are not. I believe the statement of support of modernization will be key to a tenant maintaining the valuable resource. We have reviewed the application and supporting HRG report. We've also met with OHR staff who provided the Cultural Heritage Commission determination. We're familiar with the operational needs compared to the recommended character defining features, particularly the interior. Ideally, we would like the committee and the council to be supportive through a finding of condition to continue the restaurant use as the most viable use currently available. The future tenant refitting and modernization of a functioning kitchen area is essential to extending the life.
That's your time, so just wrap up.
I'll have to skip. Kitchens are very difficult. Restaurants are very difficult to run. They're very difficult to implement. Egress, exiting, elevators, stairs, and those things. We're requesting that the council include two findings, if I could read them quickly just to have an idea of what we're looking for in the public record. We're supportive of the building. It's important to preserve it, but it has to have a tenant to preserve it, to finance the preservation so it doesn't fall into disrepair. The findings that we were considering were tenant approvals for refitting and modernization of the functioning kitchen area is essential to extending the life of the monument. And one more, requirements for stair and elevator access modernization to and from the existing second floor mezzanine office are essential to extending the life of the monument.
Thank you.
There you go. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Adrian Scott Fine with the Los Angeles Conservancy. We're the applicant for this nomination. We're obviously in support of it. We encourage your support of it as well. It is significant for Westwood Village's early development and association with Paul R. Williams. And we certainly welcome the type of reuses and the continued use of it as a restaurant or others. And we think that's fully compatible in terms of the historic cultural monument designation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, council members. Teresa Austin. I'm here in support of the landmark designation of the Kelly Music Building. I know I don't need to recount to you the many accolades and accomplishments of native son, Mr. Paul Revere Williams. Members of this committee not only hear his name in terms of his long and storied architectural career, but also for the many trails he blazed. Mr. Williams was a prolific architect, and several of his buildings have been designated. However, his talents were so vast, and the variety of his scopes demands protection in order to understand and appreciate how relevant he is. And that brings me to one of the most important reasons I support this particular nomination. This building is within blocks of the world-famous UCLA. Your vote to protect the Kelly Music Building means millions of students will be able not only to stand in awe of Mr. Williams' talents, but also be inspired against all odds. Paul Revere Williams triumphed. I can think of no better education to give generations to come. I ask that the members of this committee take this exceptional man's entire life and life's work into your consideration for this landmark designation. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Mr. Kleiman representing Council District 5.
Good afternoon, council members. Aviv Kleiman with CD5. Councilmember Koretz is very supportive of the HCM application for the Kelly Music Building. The building serves as a wonderful remnant of early Westwood and UCLA history, and its features are worthy of preservation for years to come. We're supportive of the modernization so long as there is approval from OHR for the permits pool. Thank you.
And do you have a recommendation about how we go about such an approval?
I'll defer to...
The findings are enumerated in the report, Councilman.
Got it. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, I'll move that we concur with the Cultural Heritage Commission and approve the inclusion of the Kelly Music Building located at 1041 Westwood Boulevard in the list of historic cultural monuments. Seconded by Mr. Blumenfeld. Hearing no objection, that'll be the order. That takes us to item number 18.
Councilman, item 18 is a report from the Cultural Heritage Commission, which declined the designation of the 4th Street Chateau duplex as a historic cultural monument.
Once again, Ken Bernstein with Planning Staff, Office of Historic Resources. The Cultural Heritage Commission recommendation was unanimous that the 4th Street Chateau duplex does not meet any of the criteria for designation as a historic cultural monument. The property is not a unique or outstanding example of the late chateau-esque style. It is not a unique example of a property type as a duplex or 1/1 grand staircase building. There are myriad examples throughout the city and the Wilshire neighborhood, and it is not associated with a master architect or any historic personages. So the recommendation is in the negative. This is coming back to the committee and to the council because this was originally a council-initiated motion by CD5. Normally, applications that are declined by the Cultural Heritage Commission stop there, but if they are council-initiated, they do return to the council for final disposition.
Thank you so much. We have one public comment speaker on this item, Ms. Athena Novak.
Yes, hello, good afternoon. I represent the ownership. We concur with the Commission's findings and, of course, the Planning Department's findings that this particular property does not qualify. But nevertheless, after we had our public hearing and we were able to listen to the community's comments and concerns, the original house that was designed for this site was very modern. It had smooth stucco and modern features and design. And it seemed that the Spanish colonial was the predominant features of the homes that they were referring to for preservation. So the owner did decide to change the architectural style substantially. He went back to the drawing board with his architect, and the new home that was designed does meet the Spanish colonial design and architecture that the community did seem to embrace. So even though the findings were negative by the commission, nevertheless, we wanted to ensure that the architectural integrity that the community was noting that they'd like to see was honored.
Thank you so much. Mr. Kleinman, representing Council District 5.
Good afternoon again. Aviv Kleinman, CD5. Councilmember Koretz is supportive of the CHC's recommendation to deny the historic cultural monument status for this property. Following requests from the community, revisions have been made by the owners to bring the project into conformance with the Spanish colonial revival architectural design that is predominant in the area, and the owner's representative has distributed the revised plans to the clerk. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So I'll recommend that we concur with the Cultural Heritage Commission and decline the designation of the 4th Street Chateau duplex located at 8274 through 8276 West 4th Street in the list of historic cultural monuments. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Price. Hearing no objection, that'll be the order. That takes us to item number 19.
Item 19, Councilman, this is a report from the City Planning Commission. It relates to an appeal filed by Steve Riboli relative to the action. He's appealing the CEQA determination, which determined that the project is a sustainable communities project, and he's also appealing the approval of the vesting tract map for 178 condominium units.
Good morning, council members. Oliver Neprin with the Department of City Planning. So the case that you have before you today is an appeal of vesting tentative tract map number 82227-CN. This project is located at 942 North Broadway in the Chinatown neighborhood of the Central City North Community Plan area. You may have, as part of the record, the applicant or the appellant has actually issued or submitted a letter of withdrawal for the appeal. But if you'd like, I can go forward with the presentation. So the project is a construction of a new 178-unit mixed-income development with 9 very low-income households. The project also includes approximately 36,000 square feet of commercial retail, which will include some ground floor restaurant retail spaces as well as some above-ground office space. The project was originally approved by the advisory agency on May 31st of this year, 2019, and was subsequently appealed to the City Planning Commission. The appeal points that were raised were by the same appellant, and those appeal points were considered by the City Planning Commission. That commission denied the appeal and approved the project on September 12th of 2019. The appeal points raised primarily involved the project's statutory exemption using the Sustainable Communities Project exemption from the state of California. The appeal points consider that the project was not fails to be categorically exempt, statutorily exempt, because the project fails to consider the adjacent property, the Capitol Milling Building, a historic property. The environmental clearance did actually consider the Capitol Milling Building to be a historic resource, nevertheless found that there would be no significant impact on that historic resource. The project also provided some other points as to why the project should not be categorically exempt, statutorily exempt. However, again, this project is a Sustainable Communities Project exemption, and the City Council considered this item prior to any other approvals, and at that point, the City Council determined the project to be exempt. Any other consideration of whether or not the project were to be exempt or not are not really up for discussion at this point, as the City Council has already made its determination that the project to be exempt pursuant to the Sustainable Communities Project exemption, the statutory law by the state of California. So with that, Planning Department would recommend denial of the appeal and approval of the project.
All right, thank you so much for your report. Now we have for 4 minutes and 59 seconds or less the appellant or their representative.
Councilmember Wright, my understanding is that this appeal has been withdrawn, but because of the timing of the withdrawal, it still had to be heard by the committee. So you can take public comment, or if there is no public comment, make your decision based on planning's report.
What we've heard?
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you so much. All right, there are no public comment speakers in the queue. And so I'll recommend that we find that the project was previously assessed in the Sustainable Communities Projects Exemption number ENV 2018-3238-SCPE as adopted by the City Council on February 20, 2019, and that the project is a transit priority project pursuant to the PRC Section 21155 and meets all the requirements of subdivisions PRC Section 21155.1 and is therefore exempt from the CEQA in accordance with the PRC Section 21155.1, and will deny the appeal filed by Raboli Mission LLC, and thereby sustain the determination of the Planning Commission's approval of the vesting tentative tract map for the proposed mixed-use project located at 942 North Broadway Avenue. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Price. Hearing no objection, that'll be the order. Takes us to item number 20. Thank you so much.
Item 20, Councilman, this is a report from the Planning Department relative to a determination of a Sustainable Communities Project exemption related to CEQA. It's a project in CD 13 for 153 dwelling units. 17 units will be restricted as affordable units.
Good afternoon. Jason Hernandez with the Department of City Planning. The item that is before the committee today is a Sustainable Communities Project Exemption, or SCPE, that has been prepared as the environmental clearance for the project site located at 4629 through 4651 Maubert Avenue within the Hollywood Community Plan area and the Vermont Western Station Neighborhood Area Plan Specific Plan, otherwise known as the SNAP Subarea C. The Skippy that is before the committee today was reviewed pursuant to the provisions of Public Resources Code 21155. The provisions were adopted as part of Senate Bill 375 in 2008 as a way to provide CEQA streamlining for projects which are consistent with the Sustainable Community Strategy for the applicable metropolitan planning organization. These SB 375 clearances are intended to meet the goals of the Sustainable Community Strategy to encourage higher density infill development located near transit. As such, the city has determined that pursuant to CEQA Section 21155.1, the project is a transit priority project that meets all the requirements to be declared a sustainable communities project and is therefore eligible for full CEQA exemption. As previously mentioned, the item before you today is only for the Skippy as the environmental clearance. There will be no action taken on the related director's level case or vesting tentative track map for the proposed project, which involves the demolition and removal of 3 existing multifamily residential buildings and the development of an approximately 143,785 square foot residential building with 153 dwelling units, of which 11% or 17 units will be set aside for extremely low income households. There were multiple emails received regarding the proposed project's transit-oriented communities affordable housing incentive program qualifications and possible historic resource designation. The proposed project will abide by the regulations set forth by the Housing and Community Investment Department in terms of the existing rent-stabilized units. Moreover, GPA Consulting prepared a historic resource evaluation report on March 2019, which concluded that the properties are not historical resources as defined by CEQA. These comments will be further addressed during the Deputy Advisory Agency public hearing for the vesting tentative track map. This concludes staff presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you so much. If there are no questions or comments from members, we'll go to public comment on item number 20. We have two public comment speakers. One is named Anton Hammers, and the second is named Doug Haynes. And Mr. Hernandez, if you could move a little bit to your left or right so I can see the clock. Perfect. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Hi there. My name is Anton Hammers. I'm a current resident at 4621 Maubert Avenue, right next door to where the proposed building will be going in. I got a flyer on my door yesterday notifying me of this hearing. I left my parents at home. They're here for the holidays for Thanksgiving. So I just wanted to come down and put it on record that there's not enough parking on our street the way it is already. There's 3 hospitals within a walking or a block of us. Children's, Kaiser, and Hollywood Presbyterian. There's countless businesses, 2 banks, and there's already 3 other units on that street. It's permit parking only, overnight only, and that's not enough the way it is. The proposed building is going to have 95 units, it says in their proposal. So I would hope that they would do at least that many, but I think 153 new units needs 153 new spaces on our street. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
My name is Doug Haynes. I'm with East Hollywood Neighborhood Council. The notice that this man received was only because I put it on his door. This hearing was not notified in any way whatsoever besides being placed on the agenda at the last minute. And I'm a little curious. I want to make sure I understand this properly. There was nothing on the Planning Department website about the ski exemption as normally required for environmental review. Is this determination an action item or not? And is it going to come back for CEQA review or not? So there's no clarity on this issue. I want to point out that the list of related projects for the traffic study is woefully inadequate. I provided you with an actual list that shows what the new projects are. The old study that they had, it even included the Osh store that's been long closed. The noise and vibration analysis, it admits Children's Hospital's playground right across the street and Children's Hospital's daycare center right across the street. And they based their conclusions on best practice, and the historical analysis ignores the cumulative impacts. This block has all 100-year-old fourplexes on it. So can you please answer my questions about what is going to happen now, because no one's had a chance to put anything
Thank you
into
so
the
much.
record
That's
on
your
this.
time. Mr. Bullock, representing CD 13.
Good afternoon. My name is Craig Bullock with Councilmember Mitch O'Farrell's office. The council member concurs with the assessment of the planning department, and this project qualifies for the SCIPI. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Our planning staff, Mr. Haynes, had a question about process that it'd be great if you all would address before we take this up.
This is Christina Liddy from City Planning staff. So the SCIPI is before you to determine that it is exempt under the SCIPI process. We will have a hearing regarding the track map, and we will be using the SCIPI as environmental clearance.
Excellent. Thank you so much. That concludes our public comment on item number 20. We recommend that we approve the exemption from CEQA pursuant to the Public Resources Code, Section 21155.1, and find that the project is a transit priority project pursuant to PRC Section 21155, and find that the project as a sustainable communities project meets all the requirements of subdivisions A and B, and one of the requirements of subdivision C of the PRC aforementioned section. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Blumenfeld. Hearing no objection, that'll be the order. Thank you all so much. Mr. Mejia, can you conclude can you confirm that concludes our business for today?
That concludes the meeting, Councilor.
Excellent. Thank you so much. We're adjourned.